If you hear thunder and rain, it's because there's a thunderstorm right now, so I can't do anything about that. Hear that? You hear that? Hey everyone, so it's a year later after I recorded the Let's Play, so I wanted to expand on my interpretation of the story of this game. I've had plenty of time to let it simmer. I've also watched plenty of other video essays and analysis, and so this is kind of like my version. I guess video analysis, video interpretation, whatever. Doesn't matter. The overall theme of this game is it's a story of redemption. It's less about hate and more about how far we are willing to go for the ones we love, and how resentment and anger and vengeance blinds us from our values and our morals, how it can pull you into the dark and make you lose sight of things and lose your humanity, and how important it is to forgive someone, to let go of resentment, to let go of anger, to let go of hate, and how important it is to let go of grudges because it's quite toxic and poisonous. It holds you down, it holds you back, and it consumes you. I don't think this game was meant for you to like what was happening, but for you to understand why. It was meant to question your morals. It's a story about pain, suffering, regret, redemption, forgiveness, about finding our humanity, becoming wiser and a better version of ourselves. Throughout the game, as much as I like Ellie, I didn't really agree with a lot of the decisions that she made or some of the things that she said or her way of thinking. And obviously I knew it was because she wasn't really in her right mind, and that's because she was lost. She was consumed by the vengeance, and so she was no longer herself, and she wasn't really thinking rationally. So yes, I understood why she was making all the decisions that she was making, but that's what the story was trying to do. It wanted you to understand why things were happening the way they were, not to agree. One of the things I noticed that really stood out to me immediately after, playing this game was how different Ellie is in this game compared to the first one, particularly with how she is. I mean, it's obvious, yes, she's grown up, she's 19, possibly 21 by the end of the game, but she was so distant. She wasn't joking around anymore. She was more cynical, Like she kind of took on a lot of these characteristics from Joel. I mean, if you remember from the first game, Joel was not a guy who was willing to share, to talk about anything. He was not vulnerable at all. He would keep things to himself.
Hey, look, about Tess, I don't even know what...
Here's how this thing's gonna play out. You don't bring up Tess. Ever. Matter of fact, we just keep our histories to ourselves.
And that's why he was so bitter and cynical for 20 years after his daughter died. He just became this hardened, cynical man who didn't care about anything else but himself, every man for himself. And it wasn't until he met Ellie that things started to shift a bit for him, and he would slowly, gradually opening up and being happy and more vulnerable and open, and he was starting to share a little with her.
I don't think I ever told you, but Sarah and I used to take hikes like this. I think the two of you would have been good friends. You really would have liked her. I know she'd have liked you.
I bet I would have.
But he still never really told her everything. Obviously, he lied to her for so long. But if you remember in the first game, Ellie was obviously young, naive, innocent, the hopeful optimist.
You think they ever found each other?
How the hell would I know?
Well, I'd like to think they did.
She was selfless. She was loving and kind and caring. She was a smart ass. She was confrontational, you know, if you got on her bad side.
Who the fuck is this punk and what's she doing here?
I am none of your goddamn business, and we're here because you owe Joel some favors. And you can start by taking these off.
Take all my food too while you're at it.
By the looks of it, you could lose some of that food.
You listen to me, you little shit.
No, fuck you! You handcuffed me.
I need you to shut up. All right?
She wanted to do right, and she was vulnerable. That's the big one that I noticed is like Ellie was always willing to talk about her feelings, about what she was going through.
Hey, you got a second?
Yeah.
I just want to say I'm sorry about Tess. That's it. I won't bring it up again.
Ellie, you don't need to worry about me. We should go check on Bill.
Okay.
Okay, then. Something on your mind, Ellie?
I wasn't trying to disobey you back there. You were taking a really long time, and I thought maybe he's gotten into trouble.
Look, it don't matter what you thought. I need you to listen to me.
I do. It's just that whatever, Joel. Hearing them talk, at least they're scared of us.
Just try not to let your guard down.
I'm just saying, it's good having you on my side. That was a compliment.
Okay. That's too small of a grave.
I forgot to leave that stupid robot on his grave. What should I do with it?
Ellie,
What? I want to talk about it.
no.
Why not?
How many times do we need to go over this? Things happen, and we move on.
It's just...
That's enough.
You're right. I'm sorry.
Let's get to Tommy's.
And I remember watching the first game for the first time, and I was like, wow, she's so open. She's vulnerable. You don't see that too often. And she was like, well, I want to talk about it. And Joel was like, no. Ellie's a very selfless person. She thinks about others before herself. And she doesn't really think much about herself at all. That changed in the second game. It's kind of heartbreaking because it's one of those qualities, those admirable qualities about Ellie in the first game is the reason why so many people fell in love with her character. And it just completely 180'd in this one.
Look, I don't know what's going on with you and Joel.
Maria,
Guy really cares about you. And I'm sure he didn't mean to.
we're fine.
How you doing?
Fine.
Ellie?
Fine.
But Joel's worried about you.
There's nothing to worry about.
Well, I'm sure there isn't. But if you don't talk to him, he's gonna think something's wrong.
I'd talk to him.
Well, you have to do more than hi and bye.
Okay, I will try.
Ellie got to try out my scope.
How'd you like it?
Yeah, feels good.
Well, there's that music store down there. I bet they got guitar stuff. I mean, that area's long overdue for a sweep anyway. I'd keep watch.
What do you say, kiddo?
Sure.
Just seeing how Ellie wasn't willing to talk about anything in the second game, it's like, wow, it's so different. She was so open and vulnerable about her feelings in the first. And in the second one, it's just riddled with so many moments where she's like, I don't want to talk about it. Or she was very defensive or dismissive when people would ask her how she's doing or how her relationship with Joel was. Like, are you two okay? She's like, we're fine. She didn't want to talk about it. She kept it bottled up inside, internalized it. It was just not good. But it's understandable why. Joel's betrayal of her trust, her resentment, and his death. It was like Joel's death was the straw that broke the camel's back, and it just changed her. The vengeance blinded her. She lost herself. She was no longer herself. If I ever were to lose you, I'd surely lose myself. And she sure did. She fucking lost herself. She wasn't herself at all. It's heartbreaking when you think of that, because she really is a lovable person. When at her core, she's a good person. She's charming and funny and caring and selfless. She kind of took on a lot of Joel's characteristics in the second game. You kind of see that. It's just like, wow. And you kind of get it now. Joel went through that pain when he lost Sarah.
Here. It's a little faded, but it still looks pretty good.
I'm good.
You sure? I mean,
I've said I'm good.
He was cynical for all that. He couldn't let that go. He never dealt with those feelings. And now Ellie lost Joel, and now she's feeling those feelings. We know that Ellie has been living with survivor's guilt ever since she got bitten with Riley.
She says, let's just wait it out. You know, we can be all poetic and just lose our minds together. I'm still waiting for my turn.
Ellie.
Her name was Riley, and she was the first to die. And then it was Tess. And then Sam.
And it's been weighing on her ever since and throughout the years. And of all the people that she's lost and cared about, you know, Sam, Tess, Henry, Marlene, Riley, Jesse, Joel, it's a huge burden of weight, of guilt. Ellie placed her entire worth in finding the cure to the cordyceps infection. She felt that she needed to die to pay for all the losses in her life, that would give her meaning and purpose, that would absolve her of her guilt and pain, that she would be redeemed by sacrificing herself.
After all we've been through. Everything that I've done. It can't be for nothing.
She felt guilty for being immune. She felt guilty that here she is living a long life and everyone else dying, getting infected, and she could have done something about that. I think she felt such a big responsibility to do this for others because, I mean, if you were the only immune person in the world and everyone around you was dying, yeah, I get where she's coming from. I would kind of feel responsible too. Like, I'm guilty. Like, I don't deserve to be the only person to experience this or to live a life. And that's why she felt survivor's guilt. She didn't feel like she deserved it because the people that she loved, she lost. They didn't get to experience everything that she does get to experience. A life, a normal life. And she feels guilty for that.
Only they were immune, right? After you took me out of the Firefly hospital, you said there were dozens of people like me. I've never met another immune person before. We traveled across the entire country to bring me to the Fireflies. I had so many questions for them. Why did you pull me out of there while I was still unconscious?
Because I let them run their tests. And when I saw that they were useless, I got us out of there.
How do you know they were useless? Maybe if you just would have given them more time, they could have figured something out.
There was no cure.
She wanted to find a cure. I mean, it's all she valued herself for. And if she knew that she had to give up her life to give that, she would have. What I don't think is right is how the Fireflies were willing to kill her without asking for her consent. That was not right at all. So that's why I don't think either one was right. Joel wasn't right in what he did, and the Fireflies were absolutely fucking insane for thinking they could just do that while she was still unconscious. That's fucked up. They should have waken her up and let her know exactly what was going to go down. I mean, were they afraid that she would say, like, no, fuck that, I'm not going to give myself up? Like, Marlene knew that Ellie would be willing. She knew her well enough to know that that's what she would have done. And yet she still didn't wake her up and tell her exactly what was going to happen. Was it because Marlene couldn't face it? You know, this is the daughter of her best friend, and she couldn't bear to tell her in person, so she just said, just do it, go through with it. Like, no, like, fucking wake her up and tell her that's fucked up. Don't fucking do that. That's not right. But Joel's actions meant that she was never able to absolve that guilt. In essence, he took that opportunity away from her in trying to fulfill his own selfish desires. He couldn't bear the thought of losing another daughter. And of course, she felt angry, hurt, and betrayed by him for lying to her for so long and taking away from her the opportunity to absolve her survivor's guilt by giving the world the cure. To her, this was unforgivable. It was incredibly selfish of him to do that.
I was supposed to die in that hospital. My life would have fucking mattered. But you took that from me.
She was so angry with Joel for taking the only opportunity away from her to save so many lives and to give herself purpose and meaning, because she didn't think her life had any importance, and the only way it would have importance and meaning, the only way it would matter, is if she gave herself up, if she sacrificed herself to save the many. And Joel doing what he did, I think she felt that in a way her life was wasted. And that's why she couldn't forgive him for that, because he was selfish and really wasted the only opportunity to create a vaccine to save the world. He killed the only doctor and surgeon who could actually create the vaccine. There's no one else. So yeah, he really did rob that opportunity from her. And at her core, at Ellie's core, she was a very caring and selfless person. She wanted to help people. She always put others before herself. And I think Joel's actions horrified and disgusted her. Why would you do something so stupid? Like, we could have saved lives. And you ruined and doomed humanity. For me? It's like, for this, in her mind, she doesn't think she's important unless she saves people. So I think in her mind, she's like, you wasted the only opportunity to save the world for this. Me? It's like, I'm not important. Like, my life would have mattered. And you fucking ruined it because of this, because of what you did. So that's why she's angry and resentful towards him. But to Joel, she does matter. She matters to him. She is literally the most important person to him.
If somehow the Lord gave me a second chance at that moment, I would do it all over again.
Even though his actions were selfish, his love for her was selfless. Because if you think about it, love is a selfless thing. When you love someone, it has nothing to do with you. It has everything to do with the person you love. So when you love someone, all you really want is for that person to be well, to be happy, to be healthy, to live a long, happy, healthy life, right? And Joel, seeing Ellie as his daughter, that's what any loving father wants for their daughter. He literally just wants her to be happy. He wants the best for her. He wants her to be able to experience the things that any father wants their daughter to experience, to actually live a life. He wants her to be happy. He wants her to fall in love. He wants her to have community. He knows that she deserves that. I mean, that's what any parent wants for their kid. You want what's best for them. You want to give them the world, right? Well, he wants to give her that. And that's selfless. So I think that's where people tend to side with Joel, because ultimately that's kind of what we want for her too. You know, you just want her to be happy. We wanted her to stay with Dina. It's like, why would you give that up? It's like, you had it all. Why did you throw it away for this? And I think that's why she let Abby go, because she saw that, like, holy shit, I'm throwing it away for this. Like, it's not worth it. You know, it was obvious that Joel deeply loved Ellie. He loved her like his own daughter. I mean, he was kind of showing it with how he was saying it. He didn't directly tell her, I love you. But the fact that he was willing to do it over again if he had a second chance, that he wouldn't change a thing, that says it all. He loved her. So his love was selfless. What he felt for her and what he did for her, the way he saw it, he saved her. He saved her and gave her this new life that no one really experiences in this world, this post-apocalyptic world. A normal life. You know, something that most people fantasize about or reminisce about. Things that are nostalgic to the people who have survived the outbreak. People reminisce about the good times or the old days. And he wanted to give her that because who the hell wants to live in a world where it's just fucking chaos? No one wants that. I don't want to live with clickers. So that was selfless. What was selfish was that he took the opportunity away from everyone else, the world. Because if there were a vaccine, then the rest of the world could have that. You know, they could take their life back.
You sacrificed the few to save the many.
It's kind of shitty.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like both, where, yeah, Joel was a selfish man. He really did care about himself, but once he met Ellie, he cared about her too. But he was selfish because he just wanted that. Well, he wanted that for Ellie, because that's the only person he cares about. He doesn't care about the rest of the world. He just cares about her because he loves her. That's the selfless aspect. His love and devotion to her. And him wanting nothing but what was best for her.
I have no idea what that girl's intentions are, but I do know that she would be lucky to have you.
I think he really meant that. I don't think he was saying that as a platitude. I think he really means that when he says it. I think he wanted her to know that she mattered to everyone important in her life. She matters to Dina. She matters to Jesse, to Tommy, Maria, and everyone in the community that cares about her. That she is lovable and capable of being loved. And that she isn't just some vehicle to create a cure. She's a person, and she's special. She was a person who deserved to live a happy, long life, just like anyone else. And that she didn't deserve to have her life taken from her like that. And anybody should be so lucky to be with her because she's genuine, honest, vulnerable, caring, loving, and selfless. And anybody should be so lucky to be with you because you have so much to give, so much love to give, so much to offer, because you are a genuinely good person. He says it and means it because he loves her so deeply. To him, she's his baby girl, and he wanted her to know that she wasn't disposable. You know, as much as she had abandonment issues, she had this phobia of being abandoned and left alone.
You're not gonna leave me here, right?
It's my turn anyway. I'll go.
I'll come with you. Go with Maria. Put some food in.
Joel?
Come on, Ellie. Let's give the boys some space. I'm sending Tommy over. Stand by.
What are you scared of?
Being by myself. I'm scared of ending up alone.
Because of that, she felt unlovable. Maybe she didn't feel worthy. He wanted her to know that she was worthy and that she was lovable. And even though she had abandonment issues, she would become attached to people very easily. You know, she craved and yearned for connection and just love, being with people. She wanted friends, she wanted family, because she's never had it. She's never had it her entire life. She was an orphan, and then the few people along the way that were there, or her somewhat of a familial figure or a friend, she would lose because they'd either leave her or they died.
Everyone I have cared for has either died or left me. Everyone fucking except for you. So don't tell me that I would be safer with someone else, because the truth is I would just be more scared.
I think that's why Ellie has such a hard time really trusting people and believing that anyone can love her. I mean, when Joel's telling her about, you know, like, oh, but you do like her, like Dina. She couldn't even say anything, and she's just like, I'm so stupid.
Dina. Is she your girlfriend?
No. No, that was just one kiss. It doesn't mean anything. I don't know why she did that.
But you do like her.
So stupid.
Like, just that, her saying that, I'm so stupid. Like, she doesn't even fucking believe that Dina likes her or loves her. She doesn't feel like she does. She's like, oh, I don't know why she did that. She didn't mean it. It's like, of course she did. She's been wanting to do that for a long time. She's had feelings for her just as much as she had feelings for Dina, you know? Dina had feelings for Ellie just as Ellie had feelings for Dina. And you could see it. It's evident in Ellie's journal, even through the flashbacks, how jealous Dina was when Ellie was with Kat, right? So we know that they love each other, that they like each other. But Ellie can't see that. And it's because she has that cloud over her head where she just doesn't, she has such a hard time trusting and believing that she is lovable, that people can love her and care about her and want to be with her. I can relate to that. I think that everyone can relate to that, but I know exactly what that feels like. You know, it's something that I still struggle with to this day, you know, where you'll have someone that will tell you these things, these nice things about you. They're like, you're worthy, you're lovable, you are enough, you are more than enough. And it's like you have a hard time trusting and believing when people say that, because you've lived a long life of people saying the contrary, you know? Growing up, I wasn't very popular. I got bullied a lot. I was a funny-looking kid. And I got bullied every single day. I was mocked every day. I was told I was ugly. Just literally everything that you could be bullied for, I got bullied for. And whenever someone would come around and tell me something nice, like, oh, you're so pretty, or oh, you're so smart, or oh, you're super nice, or you're really funny. When someone said something nice about me, I never believed them, because I'd been told so often how I wasn't any of those things. You know, you hear a lie often enough, you start to believe it. Well, that's exactly it. She's experienced that abandonment so often that it's just what she expects. She just expects people not to, she doesn't expect people to reciprocate, you know? She doesn't expect Dina to reciprocate those feelings, even though she does. She doesn't believe it. That's that, I don't know what you would call it, but it's like, I guess it's a form of self-consciousness and self-esteem problem, where she doesn't really love herself because she doesn't feel like she's lovable or that she's loved, even though she's surrounded by it, you know? Joel loves her. He probably loves her the most, more than anyone else. But so does Dina, and so does Jesse and Tommy and Maria, and like I said, everyone in the community that cares about her. She is cared about. She's a lovable person. And I think Joel really wanted to communicate that with her in that last conversation. You know how Joel is. He's not really a guy that directly tells you, he doesn't directly tell you how he feels, but he kind of like walks around those words, and you know, but we know what he was trying to say.
Making a vaccine would have killed you. So I stopped them.
Oh my God.
When she found out the truth, she couldn't even tell anyone about it. She couldn't tell anyone why she was upset with him. She couldn't tell anyone about her immunity. And after he died, she couldn't even tell anyone why he'd been killed and had to lie to her friends about it. She had to deal with all of that by herself. That sucks. That's a huge burden to hold on yourself. It's a heavy burden in her grieving and in her healing. You know, she internalized and bottled everything up, and that's not healthy. It certainly didn't help with her PTSD. In fact, it probably caused it. Yeah, as a teenage girl growing up, and your only father figure lied to you for 2 years. You know, the fact that Ellie has gone through abandonment issues and how she doesn't trust people. And here's Joel, the only man who stuck around, and she trusted him. She put her trust in him, and he lied to her for 2 years. It's a betrayal of her trust, and that also added into the resentment. I get it, and her pain and anger is justified, but ultimately that's why she felt guilty as well after he died, because she felt that she could have forgiven him sooner, and making him suffer from that detachment for years. They could have reconciled sooner. They could have fixed their relationship sooner. That's what happens when you hold a grudge, when you hold resentment for a long time. It makes you miserable. It doesn't make you happy. It doesn't solve anything. It's toxic. It's poison. And she was holding it in. And when she lost Joel, she felt guilt because she couldn't get rid of that. She had no relief. That resentment was still inside her. And she didn't have the chance to truly forgive him. And I guess she blamed herself for not doing it sooner. It's like, why was I holding that for so long? She felt guilty. So that's why it was important right there at the very end that she let it go. Obviously, she hated Abby for taking away the person she loved most, but she also robbed her of that opportunity to forgive him, to give him the second chance. She was willing to give him a second chance, but she never really went through with that. She never actually forgave him. And I think this fueled her rage and vengeance. Killing Abby was an objective to focus on, to evade the thought of how badly she pushed away the man she loved most, the father she never had. I think as much as she hated Abby, she blamed herself most. She was angry at herself, and revenge was, I guess, a way of her channeling that as a means to deal with that guilt, that blame of not being able to forgive. An eye for an eye makes the whole world blind. So it was apparent how obsessed Ellie was becoming once she was pursuing revenge, right?
What if he's in trouble?
He can take care of himself.
Jesus Christ.
The best way to help Tommy is to go after Abby. You do this, I'm not saving your ass again.
There were so many moments where the people around her were trying to reason with her, or when they would challenge her perspective, and she would get defensive and blame it all on Abby. It's like, well, she did it. It's all on her. You know, all of this is because of her.
You ever worried they're gonna come back to Jackson after us?
What do you mean?
I mean, we're going through a lot of their people. In their city.
Because of what they did.
Didn't Abby and her friends come to Jackson because of something Joel did?
This place isn't like Jackson. I mean, Joel and Tommy helped Abby when she got attacked. These people are trying to kill everyone around them. I mean, they shot you on sight, didn't they?
Yeah, they did.
Abby, I begged you to stop. You brought this on yourself.
Something keeps bugging me. Why didn't they kill you and Tommy when they had the chance?
I don't know.
It seems reckless.
Maybe they're dumb.
Maybe.
What?
Could be that you just weren't who they were looking for. So they let you go.
Yeah, well, they did beat the shit out of us. The one guy Jordan kicked my face in.
Yeah, but why do you think that they didn't finish
It doesn't matter. They fucked up.
They did.
She didn't want to hold herself accountable, and she definitely didn't want to empathize with Abby and to justify her actions. She didn't want to see her perspective. She didn't care. She wanted revenge. She was blind. She was obsessed. She was determined to finish it, perhaps because to her that was the only way to relieve her of that pain, of that trauma, that PTSD. But we see and know that this never works. I think as common sense, most people know that revenge never really brings you any satisfaction or happiness. It doesn't solve anything. You still feel miserable even after you get your revenge. So us as the viewer, I think we know that, but we really get to see that unfold in Abby's campaign. When the story shifts to Abby's perspective, you realize she was in the exact same position, only we see that revenge didn't help her. It gave her no satisfaction, no relief.
Joel, please get up!
Back up.
Calm down.
Or what? Back the fuck up!
Calm down!
Jordan! You shoot me?
Stop! We're done.
We saw how distraught and traumatized she was about her father's death, and how she's also become obsessed.
Come on, Ab.
I'm sorry.
Don't be sorry. Talk to me.
I know all the leads have dried up. But Joel's still out there, you know?
I know. What can I do?
Let's go back. We can still make training. I'm sorry.
I told you already. Don't be sorry.
Abby's obsession broke Owen's heart because he deeply loves her, and he wanted her to move on and to let it go. He just wanted her to be happy. I mean, he literally took her out on a happy, good day out. He was just trying to show her a good time and make her laugh and just have romantic moments with her because he just wanted to make his girlfriend happy. And she couldn't turn it off. She was constantly thinking about training, going to the gym and training. She was literally beefing herself up so that she could kick Joel's ass and kill him one day. And she couldn't let it go, and he just really just wanted her to let it go and move on and be happy. But she couldn't. And he desperately wanted to help her. But he was so frustrated with how he couldn't help her. He didn't know how. He didn't know what to do. So he's like, what could I do? What could I do? Like, how can I help? How can I help you move on? And, you know, when she was still adamant to keep going with it, he was just like I can't. At that point, I think he accepted that he was in defeat. Like, he couldn't help her, and he lost her. Because she was no longer herself. She was consumed by the obsession and by the vengeance, that she was no longer herself. Here is his girlfriend, and she's not herself, and she's completely obsessed and consumed, and I can't do anything about it. I am losing her. I am losing my love, the love of my life to this. And it hurts him. And I think that's why you could hear it in the inflection of his voice, where he's like, don't be sorry. Like it hurts him that she's still so consumed by it. She hasn't let it go. She's consumed by the cycle of revenge. She became a hardened killing machine in the past 4 years. This story showcases both Ellie and Abby's journey of revenge, but they're kind of like at different points in time of their journey of revenge, you know? Like, we're kind of seeing the end of Abby's revenge. We see the end of we see her commit her revenge, and then the aftermath of that, her arc of redemption. And then when the game starts, you're seeing Ellie's beginning of the journey of her revenge. So same journey, different points in time of their journey, and they share a lot of similarities and parallels, and they deal with it in similar ways, in the fact that they were both obsessed in the beginning, they couldn't let it go, it was haunting them, they were traumatized by it, but you're seeing them at different points in time of their journey. Abby's nightmares never went away. Even after she committed her revenge, they were still haunting her, and because she wasn't given any relief, she started to question whether what she did was the right thing. She still hated Joel. I mean, that never changed. I mean, how could you like the person that took away the person you loved most? She hated Joel, but I think she started to question whether it was even worth it, because was it worth killing him if it brought her no relief or satisfaction, or it brought her no closure? And she not only killed him, she tortured him, which is probably worse. And I guess she questioned if whether that made her a bad person or not. And so I guess she was living with this extra amount of guilt because of that.
Hey, why have you been avoiding me?
I wasn't avoiding you.
Come on, you've barely said anything to me since Jackson.
I don't know. I guess I was shook by Jackson, too.
You don't think Joel deserved what he got?
I think he deserved worse. I just wish I didn't take part in it.
I get it. What kind of a person could do that, right?
I'm not saying that.
Let's see if there's a way to the hatch. I haven't always done the right thing.
You're a piece of shit, Abby. You always have been.
Yeah, this asshole did this to my dad. I hate his guts. But was it worth doing what I did? Was what I did wrong? Does this make me a bad person? Does this make me as bad as him?
How did you know?
Know what?
About the ambush.
I've been on both sides.
So, there are a lot of innocent people. I'll take that as a yes.
Take it however you want.
And I think he knew of all of the wrongs he did, and he knew that eventually one day it would come back to him. And that's why when Abby was gonna kill him and torture him, he knew that day was coming, and he was ready. He was just ready.
Joel Miller.
Who are you?
Guess.
Why don't you say whatever speech you got rehearsed? Get this over with.
That kind of parallels what Owen was talking about, and how he couldn't kill the Seraphite because he was old and he was just ready. It's kind of like a parallel to Joel.
We were cleaning out a small camp. It's just a couple scars, and hit this one on the head hard. And he goes down, and his weapon's right there. And he doesn't go for it. Instead, he turns to me. And he's old and tired. He was just ready. I've killed a lot of scars. And, fucking guy. I couldn't do it.
And it kind of shows you how different Owen is from Abby. Abby was willing to kill. Not only kill, but torture him. And Owen couldn't do it. Owen couldn't, even knowing that, the Seraphites were the enemy faction. But ultimately he saw that Seraphite as a human and couldn't go through with it. So he showed mercy.
Sorry I grew up. You should try it.
Oh yeah, how do I do that? Should I go find the people that killed my family? Cut into them? I could torture them until they're crying.
I don't think Owen was ever really on board with Abby's revenge. He's supportive of her because he loves her, but not because he actually agrees. I'm sure he understands and empathizes with what Abby's going through and what she's feeling and how angry and resentful she is and how much she wants to set out to get Joel. I'm sure he understands that, but I think he just wants her to move on. I don't think he agrees with revenge. I don't think he actually wants to go through with it, but he's also the most rational character on Abby's team. He's the most level-headed, sane character on her side. He was the only one that held himself accountable for what he did, for what they did. And he was the one trying to reason with her and challenge her, and she was just too stubborn and obsessed. She couldn't let it go. I think when she meets Lev and Yara, her understanding and her perspective start to shift. After helping them and they help her, Abby has her first dream and non-nightmare of her father being alive and well. I guess she felt guilty about her actions and questioned whether if she was a good person or not, and seeked redemption through helping Lev and Yara, two Seraphites, a faction that she had no tolerance of. She wasn't willing to see their side of things. You know, she saw them as nothing but brutes and cultists. And like Ellie, she didn't want to hold herself accountable either. I mean, when Owen tried pointing out how they, as Fireflies, weren't really good people either, how they committed heinous acts of violence and how they did questionable things, and she was like, well, that was different. It's like, come on. She didn't want to hold herself accountable.
I just don't understand how anybody willingly joins the Scars.
Why not?
Because they're an insane cult, that's why.
Well, in the QZs, people would refer to the Fireflies as terrorists. Fanatics.
We were naive. We weren't fanatical.
We blew up checkpoints and assassinated soldiers.
It's not the same.
So she wasn't willing to see the Seraphites' perspective. I don't think she saw them as really human, nothing more than just brutes and cultists. It wasn't until Lev and Yara came around, these two young kids escaping their own people, you know, something Abby's never seen before. She helps them, they help her, and then she starts to see that they're just people. They're not the enemy, they're just people. People trying to survive, not monstrous brutes. Young, vulnerable kids who have nowhere to go, and so she feels the need to help them. She empathizes with them. She empathizes with the enemy for the first time. This is the start of her journey of redemption.
They're just kids.
I know.
What happened to us?
Maybe we stopped looking for the light.
Maybe.
I think this is when she starts to see how different things really are and how they're not black and white. I think she starts to live with herself and her actions, and to live and let die with that pain that she's been living with, that's haunted her for the past 4 years. And I think that through helping Lev and Yara and doing anything to protect Lev, you know, when it was just her and Lev, she finally starts to understand how Joel could have done what he did. She was ready to move on. I mean, obviously, that doesn't mean she liked him or, you know, she's like, oh, he wasn't so bad. No, she still hated him. But I think she finally understood that there's more to it than that. She understood why he did what he did. He wasn't a monster. She understood that he deeply cared for this girl, you know? They never mention that. That's purely interpretation. But you would assume that her going through everything with Lev, just the way Joel did with Ellie in the first game, you would think she would kind of start to see things from Joel's perspective and kind of understand, oh, now I get why he did what he did. You know what I mean? Obviously, when Ellie killed Owen, I think the cycle of revenge was rekindled in Abby. You know, she got angry and she was just set out to look for her. She thought it was Tommy at first, but, you know, she had just found this redemption. She absolved herself of that guilt, or I guess she was willing to try. And then she finds Owen dead, and it's like, it rekindled that cycle. The cycle continues. And then, as fucked up as it is, you have to play Abby trying to kill Ellie. It's only when Lev stops her, you know, that she realizes, like, if I go through with this, I might regret it. I mean, she was willing to kill an innocent, pregnant woman out of spite of Ellie. That's fucked up. But I think the fact that Lev stopped her right then, I think she realized it's not worth it, because she had already gone through it with her dad. If she did it, I mean, she already lived through it. If she was going to do it again, it wouldn't have solved anything. It wouldn't have relieved her. And I think Lev reminding her, don't do that, I think she remembered, like, right, I just went through this. It's not worth it. And she decides to end the cycle of violence by walking away, being the bigger person.
Don't ever let me see you again. Come on.
This brings us back to Ellie. Ellie is still living with her PTSD, her trauma and pain, and nothing was resolved for her, and it still haunts her. What's worse is that Ellie never dealt with it. She doesn't talk about her pain, or her guilt, her regret. She bottles it up and keeps it to herself, which is not healthy. That's the problem, though. She doesn't deal with it at all. I mean, some people deal with it in different ways, but she was not dealing with it at all. She was literally just bottling it up. She wrote that in her journal. I mean, she's like, Dina tells me I should talk about Joel. It's like, I don't want to talk about Joel. You gotta. If you want to move on, you got it. It hurts. But that's part of grieving. That's not something you could escape. You have to go through it. Otherwise, that pain is never going to go away. And so, because of that, she never healed. She never healed that pain. She never forgave Joel, and she never forgave herself for not forgiving him before he died. And it's simply because she doesn't like to think about it. She suppresses it. And because of that, she's never forgave him in those years after the events in Seattle. So when Tommy comes around and tells her about Abby's whereabouts, she feels inclined to go because she hasn't let it go. She hasn't dealt with those feelings. She hasn't dealt with the grieving process, the healing process, the forgiving process. She hasn't gone through any of it. And so it's still pent up inside her, and she hasn't let it go. And that's why she's inclined to go. Although you could see there's some reluctance, because there's a part of her that knows that she shouldn't, because she has a family to take care of and she loves Dina and JJ, and leaving them behind is horrible and unforgivable. You don't do that. You don't leave your family for a stupid, frivolous act of revenge. It just, don't do that. And since she's not willing to face her demons by talking about it, by forgiving Joel, by forgiving herself, and just letting it go, she does the only thing that she thinks will absolve her of the pain, which is revenge.
I have to finish it.
You don't owe Tommy anything.
I don't sleep. I don't eat. I'm not like you, Dina.
But now we know, as the viewer, revenge doesn't solve anything. It doesn't help. It doesn't bring relief satisfaction or happiness. If anything, it makes you feel worse. It doesn't make you feel better. And we know that after seeing everything that Abby went through her campaign, and seeing how revenge didn't absolve her of her trauma and her pain. So it's not going to work, and it's not worth it, and we don't want Ellie to leave. We want her to stay, but she's determined to go because she hasn't let it go and she hasn't dealt with it. And when Ellie finally has the upper hand with Abby, she's about to drown her, she has this glimpse of Joel, the memory of their last conversation. This is a significant moment, and it's in remembering what they talked about in that last conversation that she shows Abby mercy. But in this moment, I think it's a moment of self-awareness, because if she's remembering that moment where she's really just telling Joel exactly what she's feeling and why she's angry at him, think about why she's mad at him. She wanted to save lives, and here she is taking them away. She killed and murdered a crap ton of people in Seattle, and she's killing this woman. And she completely lost herself. She was consumed by the vengeance, where she was just absolutely not herself anymore. Because, at her core, she's selfless. She wanted to save lives. She puts others before herself. You sacrifice the few to save the many. That's what she wanted to do. And here she is doing the opposite, taking lives in this rampage of revenge and violence. It's not what she originally wanted.
I can buy you some time, but you have to run.
You want us to just leave you here?
Yes.
Ellie,
I'm sorry, I didn't mean for this.
get a move on.
What the fuck? I can't believe we did that.
Stop.
We just left her to die.
Stop. You stay close to me. We have to move.
Oh, man.
And I think this is a moment of self-awareness where she literally just stops and sees herself like, what am I doing? Like, I didn't want any of this. It's like, this isn't me. Like, I didn't want to take lives away. I wanted to save lives. I wanted to give myself up to save lives. I was so mad at Joel for taking that opportunity away, for wasting my life, for dooming humanity. And here I am, and I've turned myself into a monster. And I don't think it's a coincidence that the way she's killing Abby is the exact same way that that one hunter was killing Joel when Ellie first killed someone. She killed to defend Joel. And she felt guilty when she killed for the first time. She didn't like it. It made her feel unwell and uneasy.
I shot the hell out of that guy, huh?
Yeah, you sure did.
I feel sick.
And you just hang back like I told you to.
She wasn't a killer. If anything, anytime she killed for self-defense, to defend themselves. But she wasn't a murderer. She wasn't a killer. And here she is killing. She wasn't herself. She wasn't defending herself with Abby. She asked for it. She was set out to kill her. She completely lost herself, and she was so consumed, and there she was, ready to kill. It's like where before it would make her uncomfortable, here she is, and she actually wanted it. And I think that scared her, and that made her disgusted with herself and her actions, her behavior, the way she has behaved in all of it, in Seattle and in the current moment. And I think reflecting on that and on that memory and on what was going on all at once, it just kind of crashed on her, and she just it woke her up. So that was her first kill, the guy that was drowning Joel. But maybe she decides that this time it won't be that way. Maybe this will be the last time that she ever attempts to kill someone. I don't know if that's true. I mean, it's the world of The Last of Us. She's bound to kill people, but by means of self-defense, I would assume. I mean, if she runs into hunters on her way home, of course she's going to kill them if she needs to defend herself. But killing by will, I think she decides to stop, because that's not who she is and it's not who she wants to be. And it's just a moment of self-reflection and self-awareness. how she wants to be better. I think she decided to be the bigger person, to end the cycle of violence. You know how Abby decided to end the cycle of violence by walking away? This is her version of it, where she decides to let Abby go and spare her, essentially saving her. She did. She literally saved her. If it wasn't for Ellie, Abby would have died in the pillars. But because she cut her down, she decided to let her go. She essentially saved her. She knew it wouldn't have solved anything. I think this, in combination with the fact that Joel saved her to give Ellie a better life, one with family, love, friends, and community, where she can be happy, healthy, and thrive, his actions would have been in vain. So Joel did what he did to give her a second chance at life, to give her a better life. He essentially gave her the gift of love, family, and community. Ellie is doing what she's doing for nothing, because there's nothing to gain and everything to lose. And it wouldn't bring her any peace and solace to kill Abby. If she does kill her, then what? She goes back home like nothing happened, problem solved? After all the horrible monstrosities that she's committed in Seattle and Santa Barbara, she abandoned her family for all of that. What kind of a person does that make her? She knows she fucked up. She has nothing left to go home to because of that. She lost her family. I don't think she could live with herself in good conscience if she were to go through with it. She lost everything already, and if she goes through with it, she still gets nothing out of it. Killing Abby can't bring Joel back from the dead. It's pointless, and she knows it. Like, she'd be throwing it all away, including herself. She kind of already did. I mean, by leaving Dina, she kind of threw it away because she had it. She had this abandonment issues. All she wanted was family and love, and she had it, and she fucking threw it away by going after Abby. And I think she forgives Joel because he did what he did out of love, and he only wanted what was best for her. If it wasn't for him, she wouldn't have had the one thing that she actually cares about most, her family, Dina and JJ. And she would have never experienced true love. And I'm not just referring to the romantic kind. I'm talking about familial love as well, because she deeply loves and cares about JJ. And it was evident with how much she was writing about him in her journal when she was in Santa Barbara, and how much she missed her potato and how she missed Dina. It's like, those are her true loves. She even questioned it in the journal. She's like, was I right in doing this? Did I do the wrong thing? She was regretting it, and with good reason. She shouldn't have abandoned them. She was abandoned so often in her life, and now she abandons the people who were actually there for her. That's kind of shitty. But she did it nonetheless. It's too late to make a vaccine, but she's there and she's alive and she has a family. She might as well live it. If she's going to live the rest of her life with resentment, it's not going to do her any good. Look at what it's done. She might as well live her life happy, because that's all she has left. She's lost everything, and that's all she had left was her family. So going after Abby, and she's there, it's like, there's no way to make a cure anymore. I don't know why I'm still angry about this. I have a family, there's nothing I can do. I might as well just enjoy my life as it is. And the only thing left that I have, my family, is now gone because I'm here doing this. I threw it away. The only thing that mattered to me now. And now she has nothing. Joel wouldn't have wanted that for her. I'm pretty sure he wouldn't have wanted her to go avenge him. I think he would have wanted her to stay put and stay safe and be happy and just move on and live her life. If there's one person that Joel cared more about himself, it was Ellie. So he was a selfish man, but until he met Ellie, he cared about her more than anyone else. He would have wanted her to just move on and live a life. She sees how much he's given her. Knowing that and seeing herself lose control and lose herself, she feels like she let the people that she loves down. She let them down. Now that she had a family and lost them, she sees how valuable they are to her. And she sees how valuable she was to Joel. Of all the horrible monstrosities that he committed, he did what he did out of love for her. She did what she did, and she lost the people who she loved. I guess it was a moment of her thinking, I forgive you, Joel. I forgive you, and I'm so sorry for letting you down. I'm so sorry, Dina and JJ, for letting you down, for pushing away the people I love most once again for this. And that's why I think it's just a huge cocktail of emotions that went through her. It all crashed down at the same time, at the same moment. You know, she was just like crying. I mean, I'm sure losing 2 fingers was painful as fuck, so she was she was crying because of all of the above. Forgiveness does not mean you approve or condone their actions or mistakes of the other person. Does that make sense? So the definition of forgiveness is the voluntary internal process of letting go of feelings and thoughts of resentment, bitterness, anger towards someone we believe wronged us. And I think deciding to forgive Joel, you know, it just kind of reminds you how Ellie told Joel, but I would like to try. She's like, I don't know if I can ever forgive you for that, but I'd like to try. So that's why I like to emphasize, like, she doesn't like Abby. She knows it's not worth it. I think she knows it wouldn't absolve her of any of the pain she's gone through. I think finally forgiving Joel for what he did, I think she realized maybe I should try with her too. Maybe I don't know if I can forgive her, but I'd like to try. And she lets her go. Although the ending was ambiguous and incredibly sad, or it felt very sad, I like how Ashley Johnson mentioned it in an interview when they asked her about the ending. The way she explained it, it's a sad ending, but there's like this glimmer of hope right there when she's walking away from the farmhouse. And I kind of agree with that. It's how do I explain it? It's like that entire journey was her rock bottom. She did horrible things. She went through incredible trauma and pain, and she lost people she loved and cared about. And ultimately, she lost everything. Her biggest fear came true. So she has a phobia of abandonment. That's exactly what she got. She ended up alone in the end. She lost Joel. She lost Jesse. She left Dina and JJ, and in turn they left her. Tommy is resentful towards her because she wasn't willing to go when he asked her to. And I think even more so now that she let Abby go, Tommy's really not going to want to, have anything to do with Ellie. And then Maria, who knows? I have no idea where Ellie is going in the end. Does she go back to Jackson? Is she going on her own journey? I don't know that much, but I think that ending is the beginning of her journey of redemption. We saw Abby's journey of redemption throughout her campaign. I think now it's Ellie's turn. So just like I told you how they're both on the same journey of revenge at different points in time of that journey, now we end it with Ellie beginning her journey of redemption. She can only grow from there. Things can only go up from there. Finding peace, solace, healing, and become a better person from there on out. And that's a good thing. You learn from your mistakes. At least you should. So that is the silver lining. She left it all behind. Like, she literally left it all behind. All that stuff in that room was her belongings. Dina took everything else. The only thing left was Ellie's stuff. And there were everything from things that reminded her of Joel, things that reminded her of Dina, things that reminded her of her potato. And she just left it all behind. She needs to work on herself. She needs to heal herself. She needs to move on and grow and become a better version of herself, a better person. I don't think she's going back to Dina. I think a lot of people want her to. I think Ellie wants to. I think she wants to get back with Dina. But I think she knows Dina wouldn't be so quick to forgive her. I mean, what Ellie did was unforgivable. You don't abandon your family, That's fucked up. You don't do that. That's a big no-no. I think Ellie knows that, but I also think Ellie knows that before she could ever try to attempt to repair her relationship with Dina, she needs to work on herself. She needs to work on loving herself, knowing her worth. She needs to move on, grow, heal, and seek to become better. A better person, a more forgiving person, just better. Once Ellie has had the time to heal and grow, she can take the time to start rebuilding that trust with Dina. I don't think Dina would be someone who would hold a grudge forever, you know. You see Dina's perspective and how much she's talked about praying, how even though she wasn't a believer, she prayed.
Does it help? I think it calms me, helps me put things in perspective. It's a way to deal with grief, a way to show respect. It's what I know.
I think because of that, she's a forgiving person more so than Ellie was. So I think in time, yeah, I think she would eventually forgive Ellie. It's not something that would happen overnight. I know that. Like, realistically speaking, it wouldn't happen overnight. They're not going to get back together like that just because Ellie came back. Like I said, Ellie needs to heal and grow, and then they need to talk it out. They need to work it out, and they need to rebuild that trust. Ellie needs to rebuild trust so that Dina can trust her again, you know? Grown-up stuff. Like, that's what you got to do if you want to fix a relationship. Despite all that, it's clear that they still love each other very much, but you need to fix the foundation of the relationship because Ellie's not in a good place. She needs to heal for herself before she could ever go back into a healthy relationship. So, I mean, I do hope that they eventually get back together in the future and just be happy. Although, given that this is the world of The Last of Us, I don't think there's no happy endings in these. These stories are very melancholy. They're not, oh, sunshine, rainbows type of ending. It's never like that. And I think people want that for her because Ellie has gone through so much, and it's why she's lived with so much abandonment issues and how she doesn't trust people and how she's afraid of being alone. So it's just heartbreaking that she went through all that. Now she has a community, and I think she took it for granted because of fucking revenge. I don't know. She had something that's so rare in a world like The Last of Us, and that's love and community and a happy long life where you're safe and have good time. You spend people, you watch movies, you go on bonfires, you go sledding, you spend time, like, in a post-apocalyptic world, what more can you ask for? So yeah, going back to the beginning of this interpretation or this analysis is, yeah, the overarching theme of this story is redemption, forgiveness, seeking to right your wrongs, to be a better person. I want to thank you guys for watching this, taking the time to listen to me again. I have no idea how long this video is going to be. I'll figure that out when I'm editing it. Anyway, this was just my interpretation of it. Let me know what you guys think. Is there anything I missed? Anything you guys thought about? And I've decided that I am going to play Resident Evil 3, so stay tuned for that. Also, let me know if you guys want to see anything else. It doesn't have to be gameplay. I'm open to trying other things as well. Literally anything. Throw me some ideas, and I'll see if I'm willing to try. I'm open to ideas, but I can't guarantee you that I'll follow through with everything suggested. My channel doesn't really have any sense of direction at the moment. I know I posted an entire Let's Play, but that's just one Let's Play. And I'm not even sure if I want my channel to be a gaming channel or just whatever. I don't know. I have way too many interests and things that I want to explore and just try out. So I might one day post something that's totally irrelevant to gaming, and if I don't want to mislead you guys and make you guys feel like, what the hell, why is this bitch posting shit I don't care about? I'm letting you guys know now that I might try other stuff. If you're not into it, I'm sorry, but then my videos are not for you. But don't be shy. Don't be afraid to give me ideas, because I'm not all about games. I have other interests too, so I'm willing to try other things as well. So let me know if you guys even care. I don't know. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. Catch you in the next one, and I hope you guys stay tuned. And again, throw me some ideas if you have any. Bye.